SCORE is a volunteer organization that provides business counseling to people who are deciding to start a business as well as people who are already in business. I wanted to bring to your attention a couple of sessions that we have going on over the next week or so. Tomorrow we have a session going on at the Stratford Library called How to Grow Your Business Using LinkedIn. If anybody's interested in that one, you can see me for details if you have not already registered for that. Also, we have a 5-week series going on that started yesterday called Simple Steps in Starting Your Business, and that's at Housatonic, and it'll go for 5 Tuesdays. Next Tuesday will be week 2, and so you're welcome to come and join us for those sessions. Also, Cliff Inico is doing another session for us in a couple of weeks at the Fairfield Library, from the cubicle to the home office. And so again, we have several things going on, and if you go to scorect.org and look on the workshops, you'll see all the upcoming workshops that we have planned over the next several months, including another one here next week that we're doing on entrepreneurship. And from that, I'll introduce Cliff.
First of all, everybody, welcome to SCORE. And before we get started, I want you guys to do just a little favor for me. I want you to give yourselves a little bit of a round of applause. This is not for me because I haven't done anything yet, but give yourselves a little bit of round of applause. I'm doing this for a reason, because you have, of your own free will, decided on one of the coldest nights we have had so far this winter to brave the elements, come out here and spend the next 60 to 90 minutes listening to a lawyer teach you how to build a better business. If I have ever in my life questioned that entrepreneurs are crazy people, you have proven me correct this evening. So thank you very much. I really appreciate that. No, seriously, I really do. Entrepreneurs are crazy people. Every time I do a program in the depths of January, we get like hundreds of people showing up for that. And I'd love to think that it was me, but I don't have any illusions about that. I think it's more that people want to huddle together for warmth in a cave somewhere. This is going back to our earliest primordial, I don't know, lives as cave people, whatever. But, just to introduce myself to you, I do a number of things. I am a lawyer by trade, although I'm one of the nice ones. I don't sue people. I don't do wills, I don't do divorces. If you ever do find yourself in the drunk tank in downtown Bridgeport on a Saturday night, please do not use your one call to call me, because I really don't even know where the courthouse is in Bridgeport. All I do, and all I've been doing really for the last 25 years of my life, yes, I was a child prodigy, thank you, that was very nice of you to notice that. There were no child labor laws in Connecticut back then. But I have been helping people start and run businesses of their own. Since 1980, I have helped somewhere in the vicinity of 15 to 20,000 people start businesses of their own. Everything from mom and pop consulting firms to some companies that are today on the Inc. 500 list, the fastest growing companies in America, and I'm very proud of that. But for purposes of tonight's show, there's only really one thing you need to know about me. Part of what I do is travel around the country, teaching people who sell stuff online to how to comply with the law, basically. Things like income tax, and sales tax, and stuff like that. And I hold a very unique distinction in this country right now. I am the only person who is under contract with both eBay and Amazon to teach their third-party sellers stuff. I'm actually the only contractor that works for both companies in the United States. So that says something about me, my diplomatic skills, if nothing else. So that's it. The Richard Nixon thing we can have fun about afterwards if you like, but we won't go into that right now. Okay, if you ever doubted that I'm a lawyer, there's my proof. First of all, you know how lawyers are. We tell you what we're not going to do before we tell you how to do stuff. You don't really have to look at any of this. The only thing, though, that you really do need to know is this one here. I think it's in the middle here. You obviously all have questions about this stuff, and I will certainly, after my presentation tonight, I'll certainly try to answer your questions as best as I can, but I'm not really in a position to give any of you one-on-one advice. I don't really know any of you all that well to be able to do that. If you really want me to tell you what to do in a specific situation, you got to hire me and do all that other kinds of stuff. I really can't do that in a SCORE presentation. I am going to give you out a lot of information tonight. We may talk about some legal stuff if there's time, but I really cannot give you you legal, tax, or other advice. If you listen to something I say tonight and it sounds like a good idea and you do it and it does not work for you, and you end up, getting divorced, losing your family, you go bankrupt, you lose your house, your dog's peeing on your leg, and you're living in a diaper box under the Brooklyn Bridge because of this, you can't sue anybody. You're out of luck, really, in that situation. That's what that says. Right, so on that cheerful note, but seriously, there's a difference between giving out information and giving out advice, and I always have to be very careful about that. All right, so 2014, was actually a watershed year in the world of the internet, believe it or not. It was a big year. It was an anniversary year in a lot of ways, right? It was, first of all, 20 years ago, 1994, the internet, as far as most of us were concerned, did not exist in 1994, right? Now, the internet's been around for a long time. It's been around since the 1960s as a government, Defense Department thing, but it was only in the very early 90s that we became aware of it, and we started doing stuff online. Only 20 years, think about that the internet has been around. And boy, how has that changed our lives in just 20 short years? It's a very short time, only 20 years though. 1994 was the year that eBay was incorporated. I mean, only the first e-commerce companies were just being formed in 1994. 2004 was also a watershed year. That's when we first became aware of social media. Web 2.0, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. It's only been around since 2004, 10 years. How that has changed our lives, how different we are today. We've learned a lot in 20 years, but we're still learning. We're still not at a point yet where selling online is as easy as doing business in the brick and mortar world. Even in 2015, I can make that statement. The metaphor that I like to use here is I like to say that selling online today is a little bit like driving a car in 1918. Now, when I was in college, I actually had to do a paper once for a professor. It was a history paper, an economic history paper. When did people first become aware of the automobile? And I actually did a lot of research in primary source material at college, my college library and stuff, and I came up with some very information. People knew, even as early as 1908 and 1909, that the automobile was coming and that it was going to totally transform the way people traveled to work and did things. People were not stupid back then, okay? But let's face it, if you were driving a car in 1918, you were extremely rich. You were this was your hobby, probably, a very expensive hobby, and you probably weren't relying on it too much in 1918. People weren't stupid back then. Everybody knew back in 1918, certainly, that the automobile was coming, that it was going to transform society, but nobody was taking their gun and shooting old Dobbin out in the backyard as yet. And the reason for that, some of you remember that reference, it's like an old horse, Dobbin was an old horse. But the infrastructure that made the automobile an everyday necessity did not exist in 1918. In 1918, there were very few paved roads. If you ever go to a car museum and you see a car from that time, the first thing you notice is that they got these big running boards down the side of the car, and there are toolboxes strapped to the side of the car with leather straps. Why were these toolboxes necessary? Because if you were driving down a country road and your car broke down, you had to get out, get under, and fix whatever the problem was. You needed those tools. The automatic transmission did not exist. There were no gas stations on every corner. I always like to tell people, driving a car in 1918 is a lot like driving an electric car today. There's a lot of comparisons that I could draw between those two things. Electric car technology has been around since the early 1900s. What's missing are the charging stations. Right? If you went out of juice in the middle of I-95 with an all-electric car, not a hybrid, you got a problem. And that's the problem that people faced in 1918. Selling online today is a little bit like that. We all know this is the future. We all know that everything's going to be online. Geez, just drive down Black Rock Turnpike here in Fairfield, and you will see there's no mom-and-pop retail anymore. It's all going online. Now, all you see are chain stores and franchises. That's all you see now. And this is not just here. It's happening throughout the country. But if you're going to sell online, we don't have the infrastructure yet. We don't have paved roads. We don't have the automatic transmission. You still got to know a little bit about what goes on under the hood. You still got to get a little techie with this stuff. Selling online is not as easy as just clicking your smartphone, at least not yet. It will get there, no question about it, but we're not there yet, not quite. We're getting there. We're a lot further along than we were when I first started giving this talk around 8 or 9 years ago. But we're not there yet, and that's my point. Okay, here's some things, though, we do know about the internet, about selling online. The internet is probably the first pull marketing medium that we have ever experienced in human history. Up until now, all advertising and promotion that companies did, or small businesses did, was based on pushing messages into people's faces. So for example, when I was a boy, one of my favorite TV shows was a show called The Beverly Hillbillies. Does anybody remember this show? Buddy Epson, Irene Ryan, about these, Appalachian folks who strike oil and they move to Beverly Hills, and it's all about a clash of cultures, obviously, and that kind of thing. Kind of the same as we have every election year in the United States, a little bit the same. But the point is, though, every 5 minutes there would be a barrage of ads that were being pushed into my face. And of course you had to sit through the ads, because if you left to go to the bathroom, you risked missing the next 5 minutes of your favorite program. So you had to sit here and listen to these ads, and a lot of these ads were for things that I really didn't care a rat's patootie about. So for example, I remember one of the big, anybody remember, those of you who are old enough to remember, what was the big advertiser on the Beverly Hillbillies? Anybody remember? It was one of the 2 or 3 biggest advertisers, not the cigarette companies. But what was the biggest advertiser in the Beverly Hillbillies? Geritol. Everybody remember Geritol? Right? For tired blood, right? How many 8-year-old boys do you know that have tired blood? Okay, that does not exist. I don't think it existed back then. It does not exist today. So my point is very simple. I had to listen to these all. Hey, Dad, what does excess stomach acid mean? Don't worry, son, someday you'll know. And believe me, I know now. But excess stomach acid? What 8-year-old kid? Excess stomach acid. I don't know about this. So my point is, if you were an advertiser back in the early 60s, I won't give you exactly how old I am, but you had to push these messages into people's face, and as a result, you were reaching a lot of people who were not customers at all. That was the thing. You were just throwing your spaghetti at the wall and hoping that some of it would stick. Okay, that's a push message. The internet is not like that. The internet is the opposite of a medium. It's a pull medium. Okay, if I'm on the online, I'm trying to push a message into your face. You got all kinds of things on your computer that can prevent my message from getting through, even if it's a message you need to hear. So for example, if I try to send you an email message that you don't want to look at, what do you have on your machine that will prevent you? And spam blocker. Right, you got a spam blocker. If I want to put a pop-up ad on my website saying what a great lawyer I am and I work with 20,000 people, right, you got a pop-up blocker. You have all this stuff there whose sole purpose in life is to prevent my message from getting through. When you are online looking at stuff and searching the web and surfing the web, you are in control. The internet is customer-driven. It is not seller-driven. When you're looking for stuff online, you are in control. You decide what you want to see, what you don't want to see, which websites you look at, which links you click on, which ones you don't. You're in control. The only way that I can break through all of your defenses, I cannot push my message in your face. That's a waste of time. If I do it wrong, it's spam, that's against the law. But what I can do and what I have to do, I have to seduce you. I have to get you to want to look for me. I have to get you to want to go on Google and search for Cliff Enico. I have to make you want to come to me. I have to generate buzz. I have to generate something going on where you say, this guy Cliff Enico, he's really sick. I really want to check him out. By the way, for those of you who are too old, nowadays I'm being told by my millennial nephew that when you say something is sick, that's good. It's saying, you're saying, so Cliff Enico, man, he's really sick. He's a lawyer, but he's really sick. You got to check out his website. That's a compliment that he's paying me. Which is why I get a lot of get well cards from people I don't know, because my nephew, I guess, is telling me, my uncle is really sick, and I don't know how to get that. But okay, so that's one of the things we know. If you're online and if you're trying to market, you cannot push your message. You got to seduce people into coming to you, because they're in control on the web. They decide what they want to see and what they don't want to see. Second thing we know, the web can be an unforgiving place. Mistakes are often brutally punished. Have you ever been in a chat room where you said something that was a little off? Did you see the reaction that you get? I mean, seriously, when somebody does something dumb on the internet, the consequences are ferocious. In fact, there's actually a whole new vocabulary for things that go wrong online. Does anybody here know what being deuced is? D-E-U-C-E-D? Has anyone ever heard that phrase? Okay, being deuced is losing your job because you said something dumb about your employer in online, on social media. That's what being deuced is all about. Does anybody know what being doxed is. DOXXED. That's being outed online for being something other than what you present yourself to be on your Facebook page. Oh yeah, this is actually terms for this stuff. Now, this is all very interesting stuff. That's another presentation that I do on legal issues of social media. I talk about that a little bit more on that program. But the web is an unforgiving place. If you make a mistake, it's visible to literally millions of people. Then the last time, and this is no secret, marketing online is labor and time intensive. It takes a long time to get a presence online. It really does. And you got to devote yourself. You got to be committed. If you're going to sell stuff online, you got to commit at least an hour, 2 hours a day, at least, to keeping your content fresh, to keeping things up to date. You have to make that commitment. It is not as easy as driving a car. It's like driving a car in 1918. How many people here, just out of curiosity, how many people here sell on eBay? Just show your hands. Amazon? How many people have a website? Let's start with that. Okay, well, not as many as there should be. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute. How many people here have a Facebook page? Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, Etsy? Any Etsy sellers here? Handicrafts and arts and crafts type stuff? Okay, a couple of Etsy people, that's good. I'm working with Etsy now too. When it comes to legal stuff, it's amazing. Nobody's doing the legal stuff, so that's why they all come to me. It's incredible. But seriously, do what works. That's a primary law of business, but it applies especially online. You do not have to be everywhere online. You know, there are certain places that will work for you, and there are certain places that won't, and you got to find out what they are. That is your challenge as an e-marketer. Okay, now, this is what your business should look like online. Any questions? Yeah, like what the heck is this? All right, as you can tell, this is an octopus or a squid, or for those of you of Italian-American heritage, scungilli or calamari, okay? We eat these damn things, okay? I like the octopus because it's a beautiful metaphor. It's a beautiful metaphor. If you look at the octopus, I wish I had a laser pointer here, but the octopus, if you look at it very carefully, there are 3 parts to the octopus. There is, first of all, the head, that thing with the eyes there. That is where the brain and all the digestive organs are. I mean, an octopus is just a head, really, at the end of the day. Okay, that's where all the digestive organs, the eyes, the sensors, whatever, it's all in that thing there, in that top thing, right? Then you have, of course, the tentacles that are floating around in the water, searching for prey, right? That's how an octopus feeds itself. And then you have the little sucker things. You know, I don't know what they're called, okay? All I know is what I see on Nature Channel, okay? This is not a course in marine biology, okay? This is a course, it's a metaphor. Go with it, all right? That's all it is. The sucker things are designed to kick up the passing prey that is swimming by and feed it to the head, to the mouth, where the prey is digested. Everybody see how the octopus works? Okay, an e-commerce empire looks very, very much like an octopus. The head is your website. I'm a little disappointed. When I asked whether people had websites, only about a quarter of the room put their hands up. And I think that that's a mistake. The rest of you should be listening very carefully here. Okay, your first step is to build a good head. And the head is your website, your small business website. Websites are not dead. Even in 2015, now here's some of you looking at me going, dude, it's 2015, man. It's all about mobile apps, and it's all about, Snapchat, and it's all about that. We don't know, websites are so 1997, And you're partly right. But every small business that is serious about selling online needs a killer website of its own, and preferably a .com. Not a .biz, not a .us, not a www.something.com /something /something Cliffenico. No, cliffenico.com. And I want to see it on your website, on your Pinterest cards. I want to see it on your stationery. I want to see it everywhere. And there's 2 reasons for this. Every small business needs a website of their own. Even if you plan to sell mostly on social media and other and mobile apps, that's all fine. But you got to have a website of your own. Why? 2 reasons. Number 1, people expect you to have one now. This is not a luxury. Whenever I see, especially other professionals, I see an accountant or a lawyer that doesn't have a website of their own, even if it's just like a photo and a biography, that is a total credibility kill for me. That attorney, that like architect, whatever, loses a lot of my respect when I see that they haven't taken the time to put up just a one page. You can do a lot in one page. Take a look sometime at my cliffenico.com website. That's the website that I have for my law practice. It isn't really much. It's a photo of me, and yes, I do look like that when I lose about 30, 40 pounds. It's not quite fraud yet, but it's getting there. I have a little thing, a little bio there, and then I also tell people what I do, and I tell people how much I charge. It's just a one-page marketing brochure. It's all it is, nothing fancy. But you should have that, okay? People expect you. It's a credibility thing now. People want you to have your own website. But there's a second reason, and it's a very more important reason, which we'll talk about in a minute. First step is to build a website. That's the head of the octopus. Step two, now we got to build the tentacles. The tentacles are your outposts. These are places where you sell stuff off of your website. So your eBay seller's account, your Amazon FBA. Anybody here doing FBA, the Fulfillment by Amazon, the new service that they have? Okay, that would be an example of an outpost. Craigslist, by the way. Do not rule out Craigslist. A lot of people kind of treat Craigslist as a sort of a has-been kind of thing, but I don't think it's true, especially for small service businesses that are local in nature. I think a good Craigslist ad can get you a lot of business, even in 2015. You know, plumbers, electricians, lawyers, doctors or something like that. A Craigslist ad is one thing you should be considering doing, especially for service businesses. Now we go to steps 3, 4, and 4, which are your tentacles. Your tentacles are your marketing efforts, the things that you do to drive prey, otherwise known as traffic, to your website and your outposts, okay? So step 3, you market your web presence online. Step 4, you market your web presence offline. One of the dirtiest little secrets of the internet in the year of our Lord 2015 is that most people learn about new websites and new media offline in print publications. How many of you have visited a website for the first time because you read about it in a newspaper or magazine? There's my proof. We are driving a car in 1918, is what we are doing. Offline marketing is very important to the success of an e-marketing business. And then step 5, measure your performance. Find out how well you are doing. So just to recap, the head is your website, your small business website. The tentacles are your outposts, your eBay, your Amazon, your Craigslist, wherever you are selling stuff online that is not your website, that's the tentacles. And then the sucker thingies, whatever they're called, I have to find out the real name for them. The sucker thingies are your marketing efforts that drive the traffic from the outpost to the head. And the most important thing is the tentacles and the sucker thingies exist for only one reason, and one alone, to drive traffic to the head. The goal of your e-commerce empire, whatever you're doing online, is to drive traffic to your website. That is how an e-commerce empire resembles an octopus. Okay, let's start going through the 5 steps here. Do you really need your own website? Why? People expect that you have one, but now here's the second reason why every small business needs a killer website of their own. There is one place and only one on the entire internet where you can sell stuff and keep 100% of the profits you make. And that is the stuff that you sell from your own website. That is the only place where you get to keep 100% of what you make, and it's the only place on the web where you set the rules. If you're selling stuff on Facebook, that's fine, but Facebook is going to charge a fee for that. An advertising fee or a commission on sales. eBay, as you know, if you sell on eBay, eBay's fees are often very expensive, especially if you're a successful seller. The end of sale commission is often very high on eBay. That's why a lot of people are migrating from eBay to Amazon right now. The point is that whenever you're selling from an outpost, from a tentacle, that tentacle is getting a piece of the action. But if you're selling stuff from your website, you don't share that revenue with anybody. All 100% of that money goes into your pocket. That is where your best merchandise should be. That is where the highest margin merchandise should be. The most profitable merchandise that you have should be on your website. Maybe it's somewhere else too, but it should definitely be on your website. The goal of selling on Facebook, eBay, Amazon, Craigslist, anywhere else, is to drive traffic to your website, to get people interested enough about your merchandise that they say, you know what, I really like this crazy Enrico guy. I'm going to check him out. Where the hell else is he? I'm looking for, now I've seduced you. Now you're looking for me. I've pulled you to my website. And that's where your best stuff should be, because you get to keep 100% of what you make. It's the only place online where you can do that. That's why I say that the goal of your e-commerce effort is to drive traffic to your website, whatever it is you're doing.
Cliff, what's the name of the Amazon service? The new one?
It's called Fulfillment. The new Amazon service is called Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. For those of you who don't know, it's a service Amazon is offering now to its third-party sellers where they handle all of the fulfillment. You send them your merchandise with a barcode. You open an account with them, an FBA account. You send your stuff to them. They post it, and they handle everything. They warehouse it for you. They ship it. They handle all the warehousing and fulfillment for, of course, a very hefty fee. But the difference is that you don't have to deal with that. You don't have to worry about servicing customers anymore. You just send them your merchandise and then wait for checks to roll in every week, or electronic PayPal payments is how they work out. It's a very good service. Is it going to be around forever? Of course not. At the end of this course, I'll offer you a couple of tips, by the way, for selling on Amazon, for those of you who are interested. Because one of the things I'm finding out, Amazon is not going to be around forever. Don't give up your eBay account. If you're selling on Amazon and you're still selling on eBay, don't give up on eBay quite yet. There's a reason for that, which I'll share with you at the very end of this. Okay, now, what should be on your website? Okay, well, here's something we have learned in 20 years. There are 4 things that people look for when they go online. First thing, they're looking for information. They're not necessarily looking for stuff, products or services. They're looking for information. I read a weekly column, a nationally syndicated newspaper column, and inevitably, whenever I want to throw a quote in there, I can never remember who was the person who said that thing. So I go online, I go on Wikipedia, in less than 3 mouse clicks, I can get the answer to just about any question in the world that I want to ask. That's how most people surf the web, right? You're looking for information, but not just any information. The information has to be cool and compelling. People nowadays don't just want to see information. They want to be entertained. They want to have their emotions manipulated. Some of you are familiar with the term infotainment. Well, I'm going to give you a variation on that. It's marketainment, right? When you're selling stuff online, you can't just give out information anymore. You got to be a circus act. I'm the same way. I cannot do a straightforward PowerPoint anymore. 5, 10 years ago, I could do a straight lecture with a PowerPoint, no problem. Today, I got to be a circus act. I got to do breakdancing. I got to be standing on my head, spinning around, whistling Dixie 3 times, and talking about a damn octopus. That's what I got to be doing online nowadays. People want content that is somehow entertaining. Remember, the internet is a pull medium. You have to seduce people. You want people going around saying, dude, there's this lawyer out there. Man, you got to check him out. He is really sick. You got to get people doing that. And the only way to do that is to be a little out there, which most people find that I have no difficulty doing. I didn't realize until very late in life that I have a talent for being out there. In fact, my biggest problem is that I have trouble being in here. I'm so good at being out there that I have trouble being in here. That's a problem, but you're not my shrink, so I'm not going to talk to you about that. But content has to be cool and compelling. The best person I ever knew who did this, by the way, was a high school English teacher in Bridgeport. It predates the internet. But back in 1985, when my wife and I moved into Fairfield, right, one of the first things our neighbors did was they gave us these flyers for a local gentleman. He was a high school English teacher, but he did other things to supplement his income. He was a clown, for example, for children's parties. He would do the balloon animals, that kind of stuff. But he also cleaned houses. He did, power vacuuming, drapes, window cleaning, and that kind of stuff, okay? And every couple of months, he would send out a newsletter to all of his customers, with, information about things that they could do to fix up their houses and stuff like that. But if he just sent out a newsletter, no. He sent out the Cleaning News. The Cleaning News was a 4-page glossy print publication. It had a masthead just like the New York Times with the Gothic lettering saying, all the dirt that's fit to print. He's a cleaning service, right? That's kind of cool. And what was on the front cover of the Cleaning News when you opened up your envelope? His ad? No. It was a giant portrait of a dust mite blown up 10,000 times with an electron microscope. Have you ever seen a dust mite blown up 10,000 times? That is one ugly bug. And his screaming headline, 12-point type, it's dust mite season again. Save your home from these vicious predators there are at least 10,000 of them in the carpet under your feet right now. It was beautiful, right? And then inside, he would have, little things, but he would also have little news stories, tips, household cleaning tips. I'll remember one of them. He had this one little, very cute, very funny. He had one little one that was saying, question, like Q&A, question, can you use a toothbrush to clean the grout in your tile shower stall? Answer, yes, but be sure not to use it as a toothbrush afterwards. First of all, without even mentioning anything about him and who he was, how many of you like this guy? You like him, don't you? How many of you would hire him to clean your house? You would. How do you know he's any good? You don't. But you're so entertained by the cleaning. You're all saying, by how clever, how brilliant, right? This is what got him. He got a ton of business. We didn't throw away. We kept the cleaning news. This wasn't junk mail. We didn't throw it. We gave it to people. You got to see this man. He's sick. He's crazy. He's crazy, but he's great. This is how you generate buzz. I'm sorry, that's not a good internet example, but that's what you have to do in the internet age. You got to be a circus act if you're going to be successful. Cool, compelling content goes a long way to being successful in internet marketing. Second thing people look for, things they cannot find locally, right? This is where the internet has killed the antiques business. If you're a collector, years ago, you had to go to at least 20 antique shows or dealers before you even found one thing that would even be you would be remotely interested in. Now you go on eBay, you type in the name of the thing, there's 5,000 of them from dealers all over the world. I just bought something online about 3 weeks ago from somebody from Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how, those of you who are younger don't realize this, but those of you who are old enough to remember the Cold War, back in the early 60s, when I was a kid growing up watching the Beverly Hills, if I bought something from a person in Russia, I would have the FBI in my living room the next day. I mean, J. Edgar Hoover with his dress on, he would be right there in my living room, chewing me out if I bought something from Russia, right? That's it. Now, we don't think of anything. We buy stuff from China all the time. Nobody cares, Things that they cannot find locally. This is where the internet has leveled the playing field in a lot of retail. It's so easy to find things online right now that it's hard to make money. I go to antique shows now, and instead of having prices on there, they all have pictures of eBay, other people's eBay listings saying, one just like this sold on eBay last week for $5,000. I'm selling it for $4,000. This is how these people have to survive now at brick and mortar antique shows. They have to compare themselves favorably to eBay. It's the only way that they can survive. Okay? Things that they cannot find locally. Great deals on things they can find locally. Now, let's face it. If you're looking for toilet paper, chances are you're not going to go online and order it on Amazon or eBay, right? It's much easier still in 2015 to go to the local shop, Stop and Shop or ShopRite, and buy it there. But if you run an institution, where, let's say, a nursing home, how much toilet paper do you think those people need? They don't go out and buy a roll of toilet tissue. In fact, they don't even go out and buy the 12 rolls like you can get in the warehouse stores. They need container loads of toilet tissue. You can make money online selling things that people can find in their local stores, but you've got to be dealing with a quantity or a price that will give them a deal better than they could ever get in the brick and mortar world. Okay? So that's the thing. You can make money on everyday merchandise, but you got to give people a better deal than they can get in their brick and mortar stores. And usually it's a matter of quantity. If you're at a place, if you are using up 1,000 rolls of toilet tissue a month, it's going to be hard for even the best, BJ's Warehouse Club or Costco to satisfy that. You will find online dealers that will do truckloads and container loads and stuff like that. And I know people who make money that way. Last but not least, they are looking for like-minded people. This is especially true in the age of social media. They want to find, if you're a collector, you want to network with other collectors. If you're a fan of a particular line of merchandise, you want to talk to other people who have bought that merchandise and what experience that they have had, right? I mean, how many people here have gone to a computer website when your Windows thing crashes and you go on the chat room and you talk to somebody else, hey, when this happens and this happens, the screen goes blank, what do you do about that? And some guy from California says, oh yeah, you do this, you do that, whatever. This is the kind of thing that people want. People want like-minded people. Run that mind. We don't want to see people that are different than us. Back around 10, 12 years ago, we used to worry that the internet was going to destroy communities. We used to worry about that. We used to say that the internet's going to turn us into all a bunch of solo people working out of their basement like hermits. We're not going to talk to each other anymore. Our voices will atrophy. This is not true. Social media has changed all that. Communities have not gone away. They are going online. A lot of people are closer to their Facebook friends than they are their neighbors. next door. A lot of people are finding out that they got something more in common with somebody in Kenya than they do the person that lives across the street from them. It's changing the nature of community. Online communities are becoming very viral. I actually belong to a Facebook family. There are 37 of us, 37 at last count, not including infants that have just been born. We're all spread around the country. No two of us are in the same state. We communicate via Facebook. We have a closed Facebook page. You cannot be a member of it unless you are an Enico or somebody who is married into the family. And this is how we communicate with each other. It's a much more efficient way of doing that than writing letters and sending Christmas cards and doing stuff like that. This is how my family, my spread out, virtual family communicates with each other. It's changed life in amazing ways. Your website should offer as many of these as possible, and there should be nothing on your website that your customer doesn't care about. Remember, this website is for them. It is not for you. So, for example, lawyers are the biggest offenders here. I have to tell you, I hate 99% of every lawyer's of all the lawyer websites that I have ever seen. Why? Because, look, picture it. You go to look at a lawyer's website, what's the first thing he's got up there? His photo, or her photo, right? Do you give a rat's ass what your lawyer looks like? Does that matter to you? Do you care if they're good looking or butt ugly? Do you really care about that? And I will tell you, a lot of attorneys should never put their photos up on websites. They should not, because they have faces that scare small children. They really do. Now, really, it's true. I mean, I always say to people, we all like to think we're the heroes and heroines of our own life story, but when it comes to putting a photo up on the web, do a little reality check here. Seriously, if people change colors when they look at your photo, do not put your photo up on the website. It's really amazing. It's very true. For years, some of you may remember this. There used to be an eye doctor in Fairfield, an ophthalmologist, an eye surgeon, who used to have a big ad in the local Fairfield Citizen every week, and he had his photo up there. Some of you remember this guy. I think he's retired. He's long since retired, but he looked like Marty Feldman. Remember Marty Feldman, the Igor from Young Frankenstein, right? With the hair all over and the big bulging eyes, looking out at you. That was in his photos. I bet he wondered why that ad wasn't pulling for him. Be a little humble before you put a photo up on the web. But seriously, if you go to, and then what do? They talk about their biography, where they went to law school, what articles they've written for professional journals. Who cares about that? Customers don't care about that. If you go to my website, cliffenico.com, here's what you're going to see. Well, yes, you will see a photo of me, because people do look at it who want to hire me as a speaker. So I have to have a photo up there, and it is airbrushed, but not too badly. Then I say, hi, I'm Cliff Enico. Here are some of the things that I do for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I give a list of the top 35 things, my most requested services, the things that my clients request the most often from me. Why? Because I've learned that when people search online, they don't search for small business attorney. They say lawyer to draft contract, lawyer to form LLC. So what do my bullets all say on my thing? Form LLCs, form corporations, draft agreements. Why? Because that's how I know that the search engines are going to find me. I get business that no other attorney in Connecticut gets, because I simply know how people search when they search for lawyers. Do people search for lawyers, or do they search for attorneys? You got to know that stuff when you're advertising, when you're promoting yourself online. There's a difference. It doesn't really matter, but nobody cares. You want to get them both. The next thing, I have a little paragraph where I talk about things that I don't do, like I don't do patent filings and stuff like that, because I don't want people wasting their time or mine asking for things that I know I can't do. And then, what do I do at the end of my website? I do something. There are attorneys in this state of Connecticut who think that I am the Antichrist because I do this. But I put my fee schedule up on my website. I tell my clients exactly how much things are going to cost. Amazing, brilliant Isn't this forward-looking marketing, okay? But seriously, you'd be amazed. There are only two things that people care about when they're looking to hire an attorney. Can they do the job? And how much can I afford them? That's all they care about. So that's all you see on my website. That's it. I mean, I do have a little biographical thing on the bottom, but it's a link. Nobody clicks on it. Okay? I mean, nobody cares where I went to school. What they care about is, can I do the job? And, can they afford me? And then at the very end of my website, I did something brilliant. I didn't intend to do this, but I did something brilliant. At the very end of my website, I wanted to have a call to action. I wanted to tell people, to contact me, do whatever, send me an email. And I just came up with this. It's probably one of the smartest accidents I ever did. But I put a line at the bottom of my website. Still have questions? Call me. ... I don't bite. And there's my email address and my phone number. I cannot tell you how many people have called me to say, when I read that last line on your website, I knew you were the attorney for me. You know, let's face it, we attorneys are a little forbidding, aren't we? You know, people are afraid to call attorneys. They're afraid we're going to judge them. You know, oh, you're a stupid person, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have done that. That's what people are afraid about. No one wants to get yelled at, right? I'm inviting you in. I'm saying, you still got questions? Hey, call me. Oh, I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to charge you for a 5-minute phone call. Let's work out. This is what I'm in business for. I'm in business to help solve your problem. You know, call me. You know, people call me up all the time. I apologize, Cliff. I haven't called you in a bunch of years. Well, what are you apologizing for? You haven't needed an attorney in 6 years. That's not a bad thing. You know, what are you apologizing for not having to call an attorney in 6 years, right? Well, I'm worried about why the hell you're calling me now. You know, what's your problem now that's causing you to call me? That's what I'm worried about. Now, the heck with the last 6 years. You know, one of the basic rules of life, people do not call their attorneys when they are having a nice day. Think about that. Very profound. Okay. There we go. Okay, now, that's the website. Now you got to build your tentacles. Now you got to build your outposts on e-commerce platforms. These are the majors: eBay, Amazon. Don't rule out Yahoo, by the way. Yahoo stores are still a pretty effective way to sell stuff. They don't have the traffic that eBay and Amazon do, but they're much more concentrated, especially if you are selling female-friendly merchandise like accessories, ladies' clothing, jewelry. Their audience tends to be about 80% female, whereas eBay and Amazon are more 50-50, male-female. So you're not going to get the same traffic that you will on eBay and or Amazon, but you're going to get a much more focused marketplace if you are selling on Yahoo. It's a much more female-friendly marketplace. And hey, how much does it cost to set up a Yahoo store? You know, it's probably not that expensive. Craigslist, especially for small service businesses, those are the majors. These are places where you actually sell. And of course, Etsy for home handicrafts, for arts and crafts. I really should add that. I have Etsy down as a minor, but it really isn't. There are minors. There are other websites. There's Overstock.com, which some of you know eBay has acquired. A Libris, any book people here? Any people collect rare books? Have you ever heard of it? You know what a Libris is? Yep. Okay. A Libris is a website, a network of every used and secondhand bookseller in the world. You can find any out-of-print book on alibris.com. It's amazing what you can do on Alibris. So even you can find a lot of rare books on eBay, whenever I'm looking for an out-of-print book, I always check Alibris first. Very often I get a better deal there than I will on eBay or on Amazon. Ruby Lane is an antiques website. There's microsites, especially those of you who are doing antiques and collectibles. A microsite is a site that only has a small number of subscribers. Small, 10,000 or fewer. But every one of those people buys what it is you're looking to sell. So for example, I collect antique mechanical banks. Anybody here remember what those are? They made them from like 1850 to around 1920. These were children's toy banks that were designed like a Rube Goldberg machine. You put your penny in and it would do something cute to deposit it. Believe it or not, there's over 500 of them that we know of. And if you have a mechanical bank to sell, well, you can certainly sell them on eBay. A lot of mechanical banks sell on eBay, but wouldn't you rather list on mechanicalbanks.org, which is the website of the Mechanical Bank Collectors Society of North America, of which I happen to be secretary, and which has over 50,000 members in 42 countries worldwide with an average net worth of $20 million. By the way, poor people do not collect antique mechanical banks, okay? So seriously, and I will tell you, for a $50 annual membership fee, you can list an unlimited number of mechanical banks on the website absolutely free. Is that a better deal than eBay? I think it is, and especially if you're selling. Okay, now for a test question, penbid.com. What do you think they sell on penbid.com? Pens and other antique writing implements. So if you're looking for the quill pen that Ben Franklin used when he signed the Constitution, that's where you would go to get that. Absolutely, you're pretty good. You know, look for microsites. They're hard to find. And sometimes they go down in the middle of the night, you know, without notice because they forget to register the domain name, you know, they let the domain name expire. These are amateurs. These are usually nonprofit organizations that run these things. But seriously, always look for microsites for the kind of merchandise that you sell. They're a lot smaller and they're a lot harder to find, but every person that looks at those sites is a potential buyer, a potential collector of whatever it is you're looking to sell. Okay, next, market your web presence online. So some of you know all about this. I'm only going to go through these are the major things you do. Search engine optimization. This is something you will not do. Your web person will do it for you. The trick here, again, you want to seduce people. You want people coming to you. Search engine optimization means setting up your website in such a way that there's lots of keywords in there that people are looking for when they're looking for your information. So if I search for mechanical banks, and you have mechanical bank repeated 15 times on the home page of your website, you are much more likely to be on the first page of the search results than if mechanical bank only appears once in a 500-page website. Okay? Some SEO tricks: use lots of nouns, and don't be afraid to be repetitive. The laws of good writing do not apply when you are writing web copy. Use lots of nouns and be repetitive. The goal is, if you're selling mechanical banks, you want that phrase to appear lots and lots of times so that the search engine spiders say, hey, this is a site that's really about mechanical banks. This isn't just an occasional seller. This is a site that's really, really focused on mechanical banks. I'm putting that higher up in the search rankings. That's what you want them to do. By the way, those of you who know with search engines, how many of you here really think that when you search for something online, the search engine, your Google, goes and looks at all those trillions of pages on the internet in real time and comes back at you with the best stuff? It doesn't work that way. No, the search engines have what they call spiders. It's an acronym, SPDR. I don't remember what it stands for. But these things are trolling the web all the time looking for new content. And when they find new content, they assign it to a directory. And when you search for something, the closest directory to what you've searched for is what they print out. Okay, so that's why, have you ever clicked on an item that Google has found for you and the site no longer exists? That's why. If the search was being conducted in real time, that would never happen. Sometimes that directory information is out of date, and they do purge it every once in a while. The spiders do that, but it takes a little bit of time. By the way, has anybody here ever searched for something online and an eBay store pops up on the first page of the search rankings? Anybody here ever had that? You've had that experience. That's one of the reasons you should not give up on eBay. eBay does amazing SEO for their eBay store people. Everybody who's selling online should have an eBay store, if nothing else for that reason, because they really do a great job with their SEO. Search engine or pay-per-click advertising, SEA. I can tell you a great pay-per-click story if we have a chance, but I want to get through the slides first. Online directories, email newsletters, blogs, webinars, social web networking websites, podcasts, YouTube. I'm in the process of setting up a YouTube channel. I mean, I could give a whole 3-hour thing just on these. Most of you know what they are, so we're not going to spend the time. Again, market your presence offline. One of the dirty little secrets of the internet is that offline marketing is a great way to drive traffic. If you were driving down I-95 in Bridgeport and you saw a billboard that just said www.renegadelawyers.com, you'd be a little curious, wouldn't you? You would. You'd go home, you'd check them out. And guess who you might find? RenegadeLawyers.com, .net, .org, .biz, .us. I also have RenegadeLawyerSuck.com, which is, by the way, very important thing. I also own CliffAndCoSucks.com. Very important. I apologize for the language, but it's a good thing to do, because let's face it, if you get a bad reputation on the web, people are going to dish you a little bit. So what a great thing. Someone goes to CliffAndCoSucks.com, and what happens? I forward it to CliffAndCo.com. There's my smiling face. I love that. I love that. Revenge is sweet. Don't forget your business card, your email signature line. How many people here have a signature line on your emails? Okay, half of you. That's pretty good. You know, you can put a little ad up there. If I ever send you an email, my signature line is my name, my address, my phone number, my fax number, all my email addresses, and I also have a list of every book I've ever published with links to the Amazon pages. That's my. Every time I send out an email, every time I respond to an email, I forward an email, that ad goes out. Who says you can't spam online? but it's a great thing, and it's free. It doesn't cost you a bloody thing to do that. Your email signature line, they give you up to like 2,000 characters to do it. Make advantage of that. Make it an ad. Flyers and handouts, your automobile or minivan. Biggest mistake that people make when they stencil their automobiles? Okay? I'm in traffic, right? And I got my name, my URL on all sides of my car, right? When you're in a traffic jam, okay, where do you tend to look? You look in your rearview mirror, okay? So if the car behind you has an ad on it, but the ad is in irregular orientation, it's going to appear backwards, right, upside down. So whenever you stencil your name on the front of your car, your hood, make sure it's upside down, make sure it's backwards, so that way people can see it in the rearview mirror the right way. Yeah. Biggest mistake that people make when they stencil their cars, by the way. Television, radio, billboards, don't laugh. Billboard companies always have downtime. When you subscribe to a billboard, you do it for X number of months, and very often billboard companies find themselves with 1 or 2 or 3 months where there's in between contracts where there's nothing going on. Put your URL up. They almost give it away. Those just for that 2 or 3 months, but that doesn't matter. 2 or 3 months on a busy, interstate highway, there's a lot of impressions created that way. Guerrilla marketing tactics, not really recommended for small business, but we can talk about examples of what some of those things look like. I always tell my clients, if the chicken suit will get me business, I will don the chicken suit. And I really will. Those of you who know me know that that's true. Then last but not least, measure your performance. I used to have a friend who used to teach statistics for UConn. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But one of his great sayings he used to tell his students was, if you can't quantify it, it's only a rumor. You don't really, God bless you, see, it's true. My grandmother would have said, it's true, see? Every business generally boils down to numbers. And there are certain numbers that are more important than others. You got to know your numbers and you got to stay on top. Remember I said at the very beginning that you have to, online, you have to do what works. You have to find out what's working and what's not. Well, if you're not measuring your performance online, you really have no idea what's working and what's not. Is eBay pulling better than Amazon? Is the Craigslist ad a waste of time? These are the questions you're going to have because you don't want to waste time on things that aren't pulling for you. So you have to understand your metrics. That's a business term that simply means what statistics, what data, what numerical data are important for your business. And the least important statistic of all is the one that everybody talks about, which is hits. How many unique hits did I have on my website today? That is what everybody talks about, and it's the most useless piece of information in the world. Useless. Why? Well, I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say that I go to Utah, to Salt Lake City, which I do usually once a year, and I give a talk to 1,000 eBay sellers in Salt Lake City, Utah. And they love me. They think I'm fantastic. They laugh at all my jokes. They get my message. I know that I'm going to get at least a couple of hundred hits on my cliffenico.com, my law firm website, the next week. I know I'm going to get a lot of hits from the people that heard me speak. They're going to be talking to their friends. They're going to be doing all this stuff. And I'm going to get my traffic is going to spike that following week. But why is that useless information? Why do I not care about that? Why is it useless? Why is it not going to do any good for me?
You didn't make any money.
And why? Why can't I make money? They're hitting me up on my website. Hey, Cliff, we love you. We'd love to hire you. What's the problem? I'm a lawyer. I'm not admitted in Utah. I cannot practice law anywhere but New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. So I have to say, if somebody wants to hire in Utah wants to hire me as their lawyer, I have to say no and refer them to somebody local, right? And I can't take a referral fee. That's unethical, all right? So here's a situation where I'm getting 1,000 hits on my website and I can't avail myself of any one of them. Useless information. What you do care about, the most important metric, is what we call the conversion ratio. And there's 2 of them. The first conversion ratio is, of the number of people that are looking at my home site, how many of them are looking further and spending time on the site and looking at the interior pages? That's the first conversion ratio. The second conversion ratio, which is really the more important one, is of all the people that are looking at my website, how many of them actually buy something and go through the shopping cart and buy the thing online? Those are the 2 conversion ratios that are the most important for any online business. It doesn't matter if you only are getting 100 hits a month, but you're getting 95 sales a month. You're doing pretty damn good. If you're getting 1 million hits a month and you're only getting 500 sales, that's lousy performance. It's the conversion ratio that's important, not the number of hits. The bottom line is much more important than the top line, as it is in all business. These are some basic traffic tools. eBay Traffic Reports is free if you have a seller's account. Google Analytics is free. You can download it for free. I think they don't charge for it anymore. This website, I apologize that it's so long, but this guy, he has a little blog on his website where he talks about he actually rates, he's like a Consumer Reports. He rates all the different free metrics tools that are out there and which ones are good for certain kinds of business. If you get a chance, I'll try to leave that slide up for a second, but if not, take a picture of it. I'll let you take a picture of this one. Because it's I just found something along the web, and I hope he's still there, but he has like a Consumer Reports for the different kind of analytics software programs, for different kinds. So if you're selling mechanical banks or antique toys, he will tell you which tools measure your metrics for that kind of a business better than any of the others. He actually gives them like 5-star ratings and stuff like that. Very, very useful website. I don't remember his name. I wish he had a website of his own, though, as you can see. This is what you don't want to be. something.com////. Get a website of your own, damn it. Be something.com. Even if it doesn't relate to anything to do with what your business is. If it's easy to remember and it's a .com, that's the perfect URL for your website. And the webbook, I am not a big fan of the dummies books in general. I find most of them are way too generalized. But these two people did a beautiful job. The Web Analytics for Dummies book is very, very good for $25. They also do kind of like their own little online rating, but mostly the free ones though. What I like about the website is that he talks about the paid ones as well as the free ones, whereas the dummies book just really mostly talks about the free ones. Okay, and then finally, a last step, make it easy. People do not want to click through 10 pages. eBay just spent over $1 billion to remove 2 clicks between the Buy It Now button on eBay and your PayPal account. It used to be that you had to click your mouse 4 times to buy something on eBay and pay for it on PayPal. They spent over $1 billion removing 2 of those 4 clicks. That's how important this is to them to do that. Okay, people should be able to buy things from you in 3 clicks or less. If anybody's designing, whenever you buy a shopping cart, by the way, there's a very excellent shopping cart which is based here in Bridgeport. It's called goecart.com. goecart.com. Very interesting. If you're not really sure which shopping cart to use, I feel I have to support a local business. Actually, the CEO, a guy named Manesh Chaudhuri, actually speaks for SCORE sometimes, and for the Connecticut Venture Group. He's very much active in the local entrepreneur community. So he speaks at University of Bridgeport. By the way, this gentleman here, I'm going to introduce him. I'm actually very honored here. If the camera can maybe focus on this gentleman right here. Take your hand out of your mouth. Well, you're a professor. You're not supposed to do that. The student's supposed to be doing that, okay? This is Professor Gad Selig. He heads the engineering school at University of Bridgeport and has been an amazing supporter of entrepreneurship in the state of Connecticut for far longer than I have. He remembers me when I had hair and I weighed 120 pounds. He actually remembers. That's how long I've known Gad. So sorry, Gad. You are now on Channel 17 now for the rest of your life. That's what you get for showing up. Thank you. Give him a hand. Tremendous supporter of entrepreneurship in this area. Okay, so to sum up, be realistic about your products. Make sure you're selling to real people. Most people are selling out there. I see a lot of people out there selling to imaginary people. People who always do the right thing. People who always, think about things before they buy them. Forgive me. There are no people like that out in the real world. Make sure that you're whenever I look for people, some of you know, but I have a very popular YouTube video up. It's actually on one of the SCORE channels. It's called How to Sell Just About Anything to Just About Anybody. If you go to my website, it's succeedinginyourbusiness.com. I have a link to it from the homepage. And seriously, it's a half an hour. It's probably the best half hour you'll ever spend. I talk about why people really buy things and what really motivates them to buy. And if you're not selling to real people, you're not going to get any sales at all. I tell you in this video exactly why people buy things and how you should gear your marketing efforts. I can't do that talk now. I do it for SCORE every once in a while live, but you can look at the video at any time. Devote at least 20% of your business time. One of the biggest mistakes that people make, especially in service businesses, they get so involved in servicing their clients and keeping on top of their existing workload that they let their marketing slide. That's a bad mistake. You should be spending at least 20 to 25% of your total time on marketing activities. When I do these talks, believe it or not, very rarely do I get a call back the next day from an audience member saying, "Hey, Cliff, I love you. I want you to form my LLC." That very rarely happens, believe it or not, when I do these talks. But here's what happens virtually every day in my practice, or every 2 days. I get a call from somebody, "Hi, Cliff, my name is so-and-so. I'm from Bristol, Connecticut. You don't know me, but my sister-in-law heard you speak at a SCORE presentation a year ago. She said you were fantastic. I've got a small business up here. I got a problem. Can you call me?" Okay? When you're doing stuff like this, you're not marketing for today. What you're trying to do is you're trying to create a pipeline 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. And that takes consistent effort. You cannot let it slide. No matter how busy you get, no matter how busy I am, and I work 90, 100 hours a week sometimes in my law practice, I always find time to do these talks, to write articles for local newspapers on new developments in the law, to create new PowerPoints for things. I always find the time to market what I do. I never let it slide, and you should not either. And then last but not least, be aggressive. Sales won't happen unless you make them happen. You got to be a little ruthless, and you got to be out there. Everything that you do is oriented towards selling. So for example, when you came in the SCORE meeting tonight, how many of you started a conversation with the person sitting next to you and handed them a business card? How many of you did that? You, oh, couple? Okay, well you look pretty rude. You look tough. I can tell you right now, I think it's just the style, the design. I think you got it. You get it. I totally think you got it over here. But most of you didn't. Why not? There may be customers here for the thing, whatever it is you do, or whatever it is you sell. Why not? Everything is a marketing opportunity. If I could walk around with a jacket with my URL on it all the time, I would do that. I absolutely. I'm not going to do the bus ads. I don't know why a lot of attorneys do that. I think the theory is that if you're ever hurt in an accident, and you're lying crushed on the bus, under the bus, you can look up and say, "I want him from my lawyer," and with your dying breath. I think that's the theory. I don't know why that works for them, but it does. You notice, by the way, it's always the personal injury attorneys who do that. You never see any other kind of attorney. My work is based on referrals and relationships. A bus ad is not going to, and also too, I don't think there's a bus big enough to actually carry an accurate look. Let's be very honest about it. Some of you who know me for years, I have gained a little bit of weight in the last couple of years. The last time that you saw anything this big and this purple, it was Barney. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you very much. Questions? And I know you got a million of them, so just raise your hand and let's have some fun here. Madame.
Yes, in building a website, is it okay to use software or like a web.com? I've seen that
Okay,
on TV.
the question is, when you're building a website, is it better to use web.com or something like that? I'm going to give you the answer. The short answer is no. I'll be very honest with you. I can always tell when a website has been put together by an amateur. I can always tell. And by the way, the same rule holds for eBay. When you set up an eBay store, they'll give you a bunch of like 3 or 4 templates that you can use to do it yourself. Don't. Get someone to design the image.
Aren't they very expensive?
Not really that, well, not anymore. It used to be that it was really expensive to do. You can find somebody locally to do this for a price that you can afford. Is that what you do? See, there you go. Here, what do you do?
I'm a graphic designer.
See, now there you go. Now the two of you, after I stop talking, you two introduce yourself to each other right now, okay? Seriously, you can find local people who can do a much better job. And also, too, you don't want to look like anybody else. I can always tell on eBay when somebody has used the eBay templates. I can always tell that. And most people can, too, because it looks the same as every other website. You want to be a little distinctive. You want to have a color scheme that's important. Believe it or not, I work with a client who's a color consultant. All she does is work with small businesses when they do their websites and help them figure the right shade of fuchsia that works well with a certain pixel strength. There's a lot to know there. One of the biggest reasons people return things on eBay is because the color didn't look exactly the same as it did on the web page when I got it in the package. Okay, because things, depending on the pixel strength of the website, colors can change slightly. And that can make all the difference between a sale and a no sale. So seriously, get somebody who understands that stuff and who has a very good design sense. And don't worry that you're doing it wrong. If you're in a service business, the information is more important. My site is not going to win any design awards of any kind. It's a very basic site. But I'm focused on the information and the ease of use. And for a service business, that's what you should be doing. Don't put wasted information on there. Nobody cares where you went to school. What they really care about is, are you affordable and can you do the job? If you're a professional especially, that's what you should be doing. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
In your experience, what's the most successful business on eBay?
What is the most successful business on eBay? I'll be honest with you. And this is a good question too, because it applies to Amazon too, okay? You gotta find a niche and kill it, is what you really have to do. You have to have a niche that is big enough to give you the income that you want, but isn't so big that everybody in the world is going to be doing it. So for example, estate jewelry. If you go on eBay and search for estate jewelry, you will find 50,000 sellers selling estate jewelry. I'm not exaggerating, okay? But I happen to know a jewelry designer who specializes in sterling silver Indonesian design jewelry. That is her specialty. She has an eBay store and she searches, and she's the only one. If you know anything about this stuff, it's very beautiful. It comes from the island of Bali in Indonesia, where her husband was in the foreign service, and she was there for several years. So she studied with local craftspeople. She has a huge following on eBay. I think she does, almost $1 million a year selling her jewelry on eBay. Because again, she has a niche. Mechanical banks are a niche. If you have a choice between selling antique toys, mechanical banks, because eBay sellers, when they get estate stuff, they often will sell to each other too. So if somebody gets a mechanical bank as part of an estate sale in Iowa, I sometimes get a call from them. I got this mechanical bank, I don't know what to do. Will you sell it on eBay? You know, now there you go. This happens. The richest person that I know on eBay, although it's not just from eBay, he is a gentleman in Orlando, Florida, who sells rock posters from the 1960s and early 70s. 1960 to 1975, that's his niche, okay? Not before, not later. He did last year $750,000 on eBay, but he also has a website of his own at 60sposters.com, which also happens to be his eBay user handle, by the way. Now, eBay will not let you use a .com as an eBay user handle, but there's no law that says you can have a user handle without the .com. If I see a lot of your stuff that I like and your 60s posters, I'll bet you your 60sposters.com offline. Wink, wink. Little trick, little eBay trick there. But 60sposters.com. He's an autograph expert. He used to work for Sotheby's. And he retired about 5 years ago, and he set up this business. He's the guy that can tell you if your Jimi Hendrix autograph on your Woodstock poster is authentic or not. And he has built a huge following on eBay. I mean, people know that if he says that this is a genuine, Woodstock first printing from 1969, it is. And as a result, he's built credibility. Success on eBay is all about credibility. All about credibility. If you have knowledge, take advantage. Write blog. eBay gives you a chance to write blogs about the stuff that you sell and whatnot. Take advantage of that. Because, again, it doesn't really, I always tell people when you're selling on eBay, it doesn't matter if you're passionate about your merchandise, but you do have to know your merchandise. So, for example, I work with a gentleman in Michigan who sells transmission. He sells auto parts for Hondas and Toyotas that were made in the 1990s. That is his niche. Now, I don't think anybody can be passionate about a Toyota transmission belt. I just don't think it's possible to be passionate about such a thing. But if you've got a car from that era, which as it happens, I do, and if something breaks down and the mechanic says we need a transmission belt, right, I can just email this guy and he'll point me to one of his listings where he has it on sale. Usually it's a buy it now. I don't have to bid on auction for it, and I can get it and hand it to my mechanic and he can do the installation for me, for the labor only. And there's a lot of people out there. You have to know your merch, and you have to find a niche. Or maybe more than one. By all means, have more than one store with different niches, by all means. And don't mix the niches, okay? If I see someone on eBay who is selling camouflage gear and Barbie dolls, I really have a problem with that. That's a really a mixed message there. I really want to know where that Barbie doll's been, if I'm going to buy a Barbie doll from that guy, okay? But now, let's shift gears. Amazon's a little different, by the way, okay? The thing you have to understand about Amazon, which is different than eBay, there's a fundamental difference. eBay thrives on third-party sellers. eBay was set up as a peer-to-peer e-commerce site. When you buy something on eBay, you're not buying from eBay. eBay does not carry any of its own merchandise, except, of course, for the T-shirts that say eBay. They have a little store with their trademark merchandise. But other than that, they don't sell anything. You're buying from Cliff Enico in Fairfield, Connecticut, or Joe Blow in Leavenworth, Kansas. Okay, it's peer-to-peer e-commerce. Because of that, they don't compete with you. Amazon competes with you. When you buy on Amazon, right, you click on the item listing and you click on the 71 used, 39 new, right? Amazon has its own merchandise along with all of the third-party sellers. And where is their listing? It's almost always the lowest or the second lowest listing. They compete with you. And I will tell you, if you are selling trademarked merchandise on eBay, let's say, for example, you're going to estate sales and you find some Barbie dolls and you put them up on your Amazon FBA account, if Amazon strikes a deal with Mattel, is it that does Barbie, or is it Hasbro? I think it's Mattel. Mattel is Barbie? I'm pretty sure. I don't remember them two. They're all the same to me. If they cut a deal with Mattel to be their exclusive relationship for selling Barbie dolls, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to terminate all your listings, all your third-party listings. As a third-party seller on Amazon, you are a very fragile creature. You are only there so that Amazon can have a greater range of inventory than it would have otherwise. The minute they can cut a deal directly with the manufacturer, they are going to cut out the third-party sellers. So be careful about that. I'll confess to you, I'm not a huge Amazon fan. I'm not. As a third-party seller, don't get me wrong, I love buying stuff from Amazon. From a customer's point of view, Amazon is a great deal. But as a third-party seller, I think you have to be careful. The one way to survive on Amazon is to become an exclusive distributor for a local manufacturer. So let's say, for example, you find a local company, they're making toys, whatever, they don't really have the capacity to sell online. You can cut a deal where you would be their exclusive Amazon distributor for a 5-year term. And for 5 years, you have a lockup. Only you can sell their merchandise on Amazon. Amazon cannot go behind your back and cut a deal with that manufacturer. You've got the lockup. That's the only way to survive on Amazon. And I tell my Amazon seller, my third-party seller clients, that's the only way to survive. Unless you yourself have a proprietary line of merchandise, you got to cut exclusive online deals with local manufacturers. That's the only way you're going to survive. If what you're doing is going to estate sales and selling all kinds of stuff, every day, hardly a day is not going to go by where you're not going to get a termination notice from Amazon that one of your listings has been terminated because you're selling a fossil watch and the fossil people don't like the fact that you're selling fossil watches used in secondhand. That happens all the time. It doesn't happen as much on eBay, by the way. That's one of the reasons why, while right now Amazon gives you the better deal than eBay does, I don't think you should cancel your eBay participation, because 10 years from now, eBay will still be devoted to third-party sellers. I cannot say the same for Amazon. Sir?
What's the deal with sales tax on?
What's the deal on sales tax on interstate sale? Oh, man. Do you have 5 hours? Actually, believe it or not, I give a 2-hour presentation to eBay sellers around the country on just that topic. Believe it or not. That's how complicated it is. Right now, I'll give you the easy stuff. Okay. Right now, online, okay, if you're selling, let's say take the easy part. Okay. If you are selling just from your website, you're not on eBay, you don't have any tentacles, you're not on eBay, you're not on Amazon, you're just selling stuff from your website. Whenever you sell to somebody in Connecticut, if you're based in Connecticut, you must collect and pay the whatever sales tax applies, unless of course it's exempt merchandise. If it's an item of clothing less than $50, for example, there's no sales tax. You're the one who has to know that, okay? If you're selling to a Connecticut person, if you sell to a person in any other state, you are not currently required to collect and pay sales tax as the vendor. They are supposed to pay a use tax on that, which most of them don't. But that's not your problem. That's their responsibility, not yours. That is the law as it is today. Now, with one complication, or actually two complications. Complication number one, you sell on Amazon, FBA, okay? You are required to collect and pay sales tax not only in to sales in Connecticut, but to sales in any other state where Amazon either has a warehouse or where they have cut a deal with the state legislature that, where they are required to collect Connecticut sales tax. So if you put your stuff on FBA, you have no idea where they're selling to, right? They have to collect and pay the sales tax on your merchandise. But you're the one who still has to register. So if you sell on Amazon, they're going to come back at you at some point and say, by the way, here is Colorado's sales tax registration form. Please fill it out and return it to us. Why? Answer, because they have to charge sales tax on they're selling your merchandise in Colorado now. And they want you registered for sales tax out there so that you're not in violation of the law. That's another reason why I'm not a big fan of Amazon right now. See, eBay doesn't warehouse any of your stuff. You ship directly to the buyer. So they don't get involved in the whole sales tax thing. They did it the right way. Amazon, because, now of course, what Bezos is saying, what Jeff Bezos, the chairman of Amazon, is saying right now is sooner or later this will not be a problem, because sooner or later we'll have warehouses in all 50 states, and if you're a vendor in Connecticut, your stuff will go to the Connecticut warehouse. So that will eliminate some of this cross-border tax stuff that's going on. Now, having said that, every year there is a bill in Congress. Every year, a bill is introduced in Congress to try to tax interstate sales. Okay? My advice to all of you is please if you are selling online, get politically involved, and please notify your congressperson, your senators, whatever, that if the Marketplace Fairness Act ever comes up on their agenda, to please vote against it. Because what the Marketplace Fairness Act would do, if it is passed, it was introduced in the last year of Congress. Unfortunately, the Congress expired before they were able to do anything with it, but you know it's going to get introduced again this year. What the Marketplace Fairness Act would do is it would require online vendors to charge sales tax based on the sales tax where every one of their purchasers is located. There are over 7,500 sales tax jurisdictions in the United States alone. Okay, it's not just the states, there's local governments. New York even has some sales tax districts that don't even exist on a map. If you can show me on a map where the Metro North Improvement District is, I will give you an award, because I can't find it. And I'm a lawyer. I mean, it has something to do, obviously, it's most of the towns that are serviced by Metro North Railroads, but it's not just them. So for example, in New York, a community that does not have a Metro North station but more than a certain percentage of its population uses Metro North, is part of the Metro North Improvement District. You try to find where that is. So if you live in Ossining, okay, but how about Mount Kisco, okay, which is next door? Like the best example here, Fairfield and Easton. Now, of course, this is not Connecticut, this is New York, right? Okay, Fairfield has a Metro North station, Easton does not, but a lot of Easton people obviously take the train from Fairfield every day, don't they? If this were New York, Easton people would be part of the improvement district. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay, sir.
There's a lot of people who claim to be great marketers on the internet as far as providing advice and all the things you pointed out there.
The question really is, how do you check somebody's bona fides? If someone says they can help you market yourself better on the internet, how do you check these people out to make sure they do a decent job? And this is something that I wrestle with. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I personally don't. While I'm happy to give talks like this, which are just about business strategy and things like that, I am not the person to give a talk on, here's what your social media site should look like, because if you look at my social media presence, it's awful. I will tell you about that. I am not, if you're looking at my Facebook page, I will tell you the last thing in the world you will ever do is hire me to do your Facebook page, because it's awful. The truth. I mean, obviously, you should look at what they do. I mean, credibility is a big thing. If someone's holding themselves out as a YouTube expert, ask to look at their YouTube channel. How good does it look? Are you impressed by what they do? Ask for samples of their work. There are a lot of people, and don't ever believe anybody, especially in the SEO world, who guarantees that they will get you on the top page of the Google's rankings. Don't ever trust that. Nobody can guarantee that you will be on the top page of the Google rankings. No one, not even the best SEO firm in the country, cannot give you that warranty. So anybody online who says, I'll get you on the first page of the rankings, do not believe them, run screaming from the room, because nobody can do it. But it's tricky. The bottom line is, it's like hiring every other professional. Kick the tires a little bit. Check the tires. Check to see what kind of work they do. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Ask for references from satisfied clients, and don't be afraid to grill them. It's the same as hiring any other kind of professional. But keep in mind, too, that what works for some people doesn't work for everybody. You may not like a particular person's way of doing things, but if they have successfully raised, clients' business or whatnot, if they can demonstrate through metrics that their clients on average achieve a 10% improvement of sales, then maybe they know more than you do. And also, too, if you have a teenager, especially, I would in the household or in your immediate family, I would trust them, believe it or not, to do that, because they live online. I don't live online. Your average 18, 19-year-old lives online, and they know things that I can only dream of. I was surprised. An accountant friend of mine, I won't mention his name, just recently got a website. I've been hounding him for years to create a website of his own, and he finally got around to doing it, and he did. It was marvelous. And I thought it was fantastic. He did a really beautiful job of this. So I said, no, Joe, not his real name, Joe, who'd you use? And he goes, my 20-year-old niece, she's a sophomore in college, she's studying graphic design, she wanted to do my website for free. Beautiful. I would recommend this to, I said, by the way, and of course, you're going to give her name to everybody in the Connecticut State Society of CPAs, aren't you? That'll pay her freaking tuition. Okay? And he said, I never thought of that. Yes. If you have a good experience with someone, spread the word around. Don't be afraid of doing that.
For young people, is there a source?
Students have the opportunity to respond.
Okay, good. My biggest frustration, and I know exactly what you're talking about, I think if you're really serious about doing e-commerce the right way, you need two different people working with you, and you hope that they communicate. The first person is somebody who's really good at design. They can make things look gorgeous, and in such a way that the pixels are right, the colors jump and pop exactly as they should, depending on what kind of connection people have. That's a talent that's very teachable. CAD-CAM, Fred was mentioning CAD-CAM. There are places where they learn those skills. But you also need someone with a business brain, too, who can tell you what marketing strategies work online. Because you can have the most beautiful website in the world, but if it's not search engine optimized the right way, you're not going to get any traffic. So you need those two brains, and in my experience, I have never found a single human being that has both of those capacities. It's like finding a good engineer who's also a marketing genius. Those two brains, I don't think, do you find very many people who have both of those things in the same body?
It's rare.
It's rare, but it can happen. But it is very rare. Usually they're in two different bodies. In my experience, one of them usually has a Y chromosome and the other one doesn't, but that is not scientifically valid, and you should not quote me on that. And surprisingly, it isn't always the design person who doesn't have the Y chromosome. I'm not being at all, sexist in any way about that. But seriously, those two talents you need. There are a lot of people who really are good at SEO, but their design taste stinks, and vice versa. So try to find, I say, try to avoid a solo. When you're looking to create a web marketing presence, try to find a firm that might have both of those talents, in-house. A small firm, but try to find a firm. Yeah, because those two things. I had a guy once design a beautiful website for me, but he totally screwed up the SEO. He had me. He actually did a beautiful job with the web design in the sense that the pages flowed very quickly, and he did beautiful. But he decided to do a cartoon of me. On like a graphic, he had one of these. He had this software that he really wanted to try out that takes a photograph and automatically makes like a caricature out of it. And he really wanted to try this out. So he used this, and when he showed me the website, thank God it was offline. He showed it to me just as a private beta thing. But I looked exactly like Pee Wee Herman. And I just, from a credibility standpoint, I just said, I think we can do better here, So seriously, even I can make mistakes with this stuff. And whatever you do, please don't judge me. But I'll give you two pieces of advice on social media, because I know they want us to wrap up here. There are two pieces of advice when we're dealing with social media that your great-grandmother could have told you. And those of you, we didn't really talk a lot about social media marketing. I have a separate course that I do on that. But I'll give you two pieces of advice on social media marketing that your great-granny could have told you. Now, your great-grandmother didn't know anything about technology or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that, but she was very wise in the way of the world. And there are two pieces of advice I can give you when you're trying to sell yourself or your stuff on social media. Lesson number one, people judge you by the company you keep. Your great-granny knew that, and it's very important when you're selling on social media. If I look at your Facebook friends, and I think they're all a bunch of idiots and yahoos, I'm going to think that you are an idiot and a yahoo as well, because likes tend to congregate. Birds of a feather flock together. Okay, that hasn't changed in 100 years. The second thing that you got to be aware of, especially with social media, is to have friends, one must be a friend. Social media, always remember, is interactive. If I can handle you to buy, my next book, you can handle me to contribute $10 to your next run for cancer or whatever it is you're doing for charity purposes. And if you want it to be a one-way relationship, make sure that you set up your social media site properly. Because if people think that you are part of a community, they expect you to give as well as take. So those are two pieces of social media marketing advice that your great-grandmother could have done. And with that, I am through talking. To the SCORE people, thank you very much. Bill, thank you always for having me.